it's kind of largely about the conspiracy theories and, and I think, Blake, you said it well. It's like we have to give space for people to grieve. There is a trial coming up. We understand that sometimes when we don't speak on every topic, it creates a bit of a vacuum. And there is, just so you know,
let's dive straight into this madness. Those claps last night, they weren't just loud, they were legendary. Hope your Saturday's off to a good start because things are about to get messy. So here's what went down. Pastor Rob McCoy said some things that just didn't add up, not even a little. And I'm not talking about opinions or rumors. I mean, plain as day, you can pull up the September 10th footage yourself and see the story doesn't line up with what he claimed happened. What's even wilder is that Mikey McCoy hasn't said a word. Andrew, quiet. The entire Turning Point crew, dead silent. But then suddenly, out of nowhere, people start noticing Rob McCoy's podcast clips and sermons disappearing from the internet, deleted, gone. Baron Coleman actually caught it live on his feed, and so did Ian Carroll. I was one of the first to call it out when Rob said that Frank and Mikey were these heroic figures who supposedly got covered by Charlie, but when I compared his story to the actual footage, it didn't match up at all. Now, finally, Mikey McCoy, Andrew, and Blake, the so-called Turning Point boys, have decided to face this situation head-on. After all this silence, they're finally addressing the mountain of questions surrounding Rob McCoy's inconsistencies. But the way they're doing it, honestly, it feels childish. At this stage, with so many videos, breakdowns, and eyewitnesses pointing out the obvious, this response almost feels like a bad PR stunt. And people online are saying it's getting JFK level weird. Like the level of confusion, cover-ups, and contradictory stories is just unreal. Imagine years down the line looking at your grandkid and they ask, hey, did you ever see what really happened back then? And you're sitting there like, yeah, I did, and it still doesn't make sense. Everything about this situation feels strange, secretive, and way too orchestrated.
There's a reason for some of the silence on certain things and the choosing not to engage in certain things. But I loved Rain's heart, and you could tell that she is grieved just by Charlie not being with us and the anchor that Charlie was in her life, but also the fact that she wants to carry his mission forward, and she wants everybody to be unified and on the same page. So
whatever story they're trying to push now, it's clear people aren't buying it anymore. You ever picture the future where someone asks, hey, did you ever hear about that Charlie Kirk guy? And you go, yeah, of course I did. But then it hits you. The whole story still doesn't make sense even decades later. You'd probably look at your grandkid, rub their half-robotic head with AI practically running through their veins and say, I know, kid, I know. And that grandkid's gonna shake their head and go, that Rob McCoy person, like none of what he said made sense. Why did people just believe him? And you'll sigh and reply, we didn't, son, we didn't. But all right, enough daydreaming, and let's get into the actual clip where they finally address this whole mess. And before you even watch, I want you to keep one thing in mind. He was screaming. Write that down if you have to. Grab your notepad because this isn't just some random theory anymore. We've reached the point where you actually need to track these details. So yeah, he was screaming. Remember that. Now, before we go further, you won't hear me promoting anything here. No subscriptions, no links, nothing like that. Just facts and chaos. Because what's about to come next is unreal. So Mikey gets on camera and says his dad released a sermon, and a month later, it suddenly went viral. But for all the wrong reasons. And he's out here acting confused, like he doesn't understand why it blew up. Well, I'll tell you why, Mikey. Because people noticed the contradictions. Now he's claiming his dad had nightmares about it. Nightmares for a whole month, and I'm sitting here thinking, wait a second. You mean to tell me you and your dad never spoke during that time? You didn't even ask him what was going on until after it went viral? What kind of world are we living in? He says he had to call his dad and ask, did you really say that? Like, what? The whole clip was online. All you had to do was type in your dad's name and the video popped right up. You could literally see it for yourself. But instead, he's trying to convince everyone that he only saw texts about it.
Mikey, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, you said it. If there's silence on something, oftentimes people say it's silent because it's true. No, that's not why. Like, there's so many accusations out there against so many people. Even one of them are like a sermon that my dad gave where he said that I had blood on me. And for the record, like, he gave that sermon. I called my dad moments after everything happened, and I was screaming. I was listening to that call, and Blake was next to me. I was screaming on the phone.
That he read posts online saying Rob McCoy said Mikey was covered in blood and thought, that's strange. I should check that out. I mean, come on. How could you see an entire clip trending and not think to actually watch it? That's like pretending you didn't notice a fire because someone only told you about the smoke. This story keeps getting more bizarre by the minute. And if we're being real here, that's exactly why people are questioning everything. Because if this is how they're explaining it, with half-truths, confusion, and missing pieces, then of course it sounds sketchy. You can't just say, I didn't know my dad said that when the footage was everywhere. So yeah, remember this moment. He says he didn't see the video, only the words online. That's his explanation. And honestly, it doesn't add up one bit. The internet never forgets, and this clip is proof. That's the story he's sticking with. He didn't see the video. Wild, right? It's honestly one of the strangest things ever. And let me just say this loud and clear. I don't care how big this platform gets. I'm staying normal. I'm not gonna turn into one of those detached people pretending they don't own a TV or claiming they've never seen the thing the entire internet is talking about. It's like a pattern now. These folks reach a certain level of visibility and suddenly they go, oh, I don't have a computer, I don't watch television, I don't check social media, I've never heard of that clip. Come on, that's not mysterious, that's suspicious. You can't just play clueless when something you said goes viral across multiple platforms. He's acting like he doesn't even know what X is. Like, what's X? Never heard of it. Seriously? You expect people to believe that? It's not believable at all. I'm not even making any big claims here, just pointing out how ridiculous this sounds. And here's the real kicker, and nobody even asked Mikey to explain himself. Nobody was begging him for answers because the video already showed everything. We all saw it. We saw him walk off. We saw him lift one hand to his ear while holding his phone in the other.
Shot in the neck, and he had blood all over him.
He said,
and I
think he said there was a lot of blood.
And I said, you need to call every pastor and pray for a miracle. And he thought, for some reason, that I said I had blood on me. So he gives a sermon 72 hours later where he addresses that conspiracy.
Yeah, and he says that
I had blood on me. Okay. I didn't see that sermon. And then about a month later, that was like trending all over social media. And I called my dad and I was like, did you actually say this? And he was like, yeah, I just found out it's not true.
Everything was right there in front of us, plain as day. There weren't any mystery angles to figure out. So when he popped up trying to clarify, it almost made things worse. Then he tries to brush it off like, well, my dad was glad it wasn't true. What does that even mean? If your dad said something that wasn't accurate, then just admit it was wrong. Don't spin it like a press statement. The truth doesn't need PR. What really happened is this: they were fine with the story until people started calling them out. Once the internet lit up with questions, that's when they tried to rewrite the whole thing. And that's the part that really gets under people's skin. Because instead of just being real and saying, yeah, we got it wrong, they're acting like politicians. Dodging questions, dressing up mistakes with polite phrasing, and hoping everyone forgets. That fake professionalism is exhausting. I swear the straighter his back got while speaking, the more robotic the whole thing felt, like he was reading from a script someone wrote 5 minutes before the camera rolled. But here's the thing, it's not hate, it's just people reacting to evidence. The reason folks are frustrated is because there's clear footage. The video exists. People can see what happened, and when they hear a totally different story being told, of course they're going to push back, especially when clips are side by side, one showing what actually happened and another showing someone denying it. The contrast is too obvious. People aren't being mean, they're being observant. And let's not forget the one guy in all this who pointed it out from the jump, the handsome man in the yellow hat with thunderous claps, as he likes to say. He's been calmly connecting the dots, showing the inconsistencies between what's being said and what's on the footage. That's the real reason the conversation exploded.
So like behind every single one of these are a human being. For an entire month, my dad had to live with nightmares every night that his son actually did have blood all over him.
Didn't you say he got emotional when he found out?
He got emotional when I was on the phone with him being like...
Anyway, all right, let's get on here.
Like, that's not true. Why did you say that?
No, he was so glad to hear it wasn't true.
Yeah, like not everything is some grand scheme. And just because someone's not answering all of your questions when you want them to answer your questions does not mean it's
I want to close the loop on this.
I have
think
one more thing.
Because people saw proof that didn't match the story. And honestly, that's all it takes nowadays. You can't out-talk video evidence. The camera doesn't lie. People aren't attacking anyone, and they're reacting to what they can literally see with their own eyes. And yeah, maybe some folks went too far sending DMs or emails, but for most of us, it's not that deep. We just analyze, discuss, make videos, and move on. It's not obsession, it's accountability. I mean, I'm mature about it. I make full videos, put the evidence together, edit it properly, and upload it. That's what being rational looks like. Presenting facts, not fantasies. Still, this whole situation just feels odd. Every new statement only adds more confusion instead of clarity. The fact that he even felt the need to respond says a lot. Because honestly, no one needed him to. The video already spoke for itself. But maybe that's why it's blowing up all over again. Because every time someone tries to clear things up, it just reminds everyone how weird the story still sounds. People keep asking, why isn't he refuting it? But honestly, what's there to refute? The footage speaks for itself. People say, you walked away when Charlie got hit. The video clearly shows he did walk away when Charlie got hit. People say, your dad claimed you were covered in blood. The video clearly shows you weren't. It's right there, plain and simple. So now what? What are we even arguing about? There's nothing to spin, nothing to debate. This isn't some conspiracy people dreamed up out of thin air. It's not fake news. It's not edited clips. It's straight from the footage. You can literally see the EMTs right there beside him helping Charlie into the SUV, even though Brian Harpo claimed they were nowhere to be found. Like, what?
There's a lot of people are deeply affected by this.
Yeah.
And for some people, the temptation of something very emotionally upsetting is they want to, frankly, sometimes there's a temptation to lash out. And I would remember that, I would encourage you to remember, all of us love Charlie. All of us care deeply about Charlie. It is fundamentally, I'll just say it is fundamentally outrageous and insane to say that any of us would have wanted Charlie dead or wanted anything bad to happen to him. And
we can all see they're standing right next to him. That's what's so frustrating about all this. The people involved are acting like the public just made this up. But we didn't. The evidence exists and it's impossible to ignore. At least I'll give Mikey this. He did finally address it, but remember what I told you earlier? Write it down. He said he was screaming. So here's where it gets even stranger. According to what they're telling us now, here's how everything supposedly unfolded. Charlie gets hit, Mikey reacts, and then we're told he was screaming in panic. But then Blake comes in with his own version, and that's where things start getting messy. I pulled up the clip myself just to make sure, and you can hear Mikey say, I was screaming, I was going crazy with my dad, I was freaking out. That's his own description of it, but when you actually watch the video, it doesn't line up. You can clearly see Mikey going off by himself. Blake isn't even in that part of the frame. If Charlie's lying near the tent, Mikey is already down there while Blake is still crossing over from the opposite side. They weren't even next to each other at that moment. You can see the exact part where Blake moves across that narrow stretch of ground near the tent. He wasn't there yet, so how could they both be reacting together if they weren't even in the same spot? All right, but let's be fair for a second and say, okay, maybe what they're claiming did happen and they did meet up afterward. Fine, but the story still sounds odd because then we get told that Mikey's lip was quivering, right? And after that, he supposedly says, I have to call Erika. And this is where things go off the rails. So Mikey calls Erika and says, Erika, Charlie's been shot. Get the kids, get security, get on a plane, get over here. That's the conversation they claim took place. Calm, direct, like he's handling things under pressure. But then, less than a minute later, we're supposed to believe he calls his dad and suddenly he's hysterical, screaming, crying, completely losing it. How does that make sense? You go from calm and collected with one person.
when we get emails where people just say, you killed Charlie, or like, you're lying about everything, I would strongly encourage those people to reflect on what is motivating them to do these things.
Yeah. Say, there is a point where you know, it's deeply frustrating that somebody like Mikey would have to even dignify some of like that, you know, this story that you'd have to even dignify that with a response. I mean, it's so insane. But by the way, I love that Rain is wearing she was talking about her bracelet from the memorial. Yeah. And it was funny because just this morning I saw a bunch of like, we are
to full-blown panic with the next call. He supposedly says, Dad, Charlie's been shot, screaming like he's in a movie scene. And then instantly he's back in leader mode, barking orders like a general. We need to get to the hospital. I need people ready now. The flip between calm strategist and emotional meltdown just doesn't add up. And listen, I'd love to act it out for you the way he described it, loud and dramatic, but it's late and the baby's asleep, so you'll have to imagine it. Still, that's what makes this whole explanation sound so inconsistent. Because you can't go from giving smooth instructions 1 second to a full-on emotional breakdown the next, not when all the evidence we've seen shows something completely different. The timeline doesn't line up, the body language doesn't match, and even the tone shift between those calls feels off. And that's exactly what people keep pointing out online. These aren't haters or trolls, they're just regular viewers seeing the same footage and saying, wait a second, that's not what happened. That's why this entire clarification feels strange. Every time one of them tries to patch the story, it just opens another hole. If anything, they're making it worse for themselves, because now, instead of clearing the air, they're stacking contradictions on top of contradictions. And honestly, that's what happens when you try to rewrite the narrative after the fact. Once the footage is out there, it's impossible to reshape reality. People already saw it, so no matter how they retell it, viewers can always rewind and check for themselves. In the end, it's simple. People aren't confused, they're just paying attention. They saw the reactions, they heard the audio, they noticed who was calm and who wasn't. And that's why this whole thing feels off. Because when your official story doesn't match what everyone can literally see, it doesn't matter how many times you repeat it.
Charlie Kirk bracelets on Mikey's desk. I was like, I want one of these. I never wear these kind of bracelets. Not really my thing, but I'll wear it for Charlie. So I thought that was
to do. My job was not to get in the way and screw this up because like I had to be a hero. That was not my job. I remember even running past, both of us going past the SUV that we came in on, and me thinking, should I get in that car? And then thinking, no, that's a really stupid thing to do. And then I kept going. So I was not with Mikey, or I don't remember being with him. I think I was ahead of him as we left. And then we get out, and I run for...
People won't believe it. Every time they put out another version of their story, it makes even less sense compared to what's actually on the footage. I'm not making any big claims right now, not here, because of where this video is sitting publicly. But trust me, once we hit the after show, I'll be breaking it all the way down. You better believe it. Still, even without going too deep, anyone can see how bizarre the timeline sounds once you line everything up. So let's go over what's already out there. If you take everything they've said, piece it together, and compare it to the actual footage, it just doesn't add up. It's like trying to fit mismatched puzzle pieces together. No matter how hard you press, the picture still doesn't make sense. And here's what's even crazier. Mikey himself said he was screaming, right? His dad supposedly got emotional after hearing that, thinking his son was in danger. But then apparently Mikey says something like, "There's a lot of blood," and his dad assumes the blood is all over him. So that's how the whole covered in blood part got twisted in the first place. Now, I get it. Emotions run high in chaotic moments like that, but when you retell the story to the public, you can't just let confusion turn into fiction. And that's what's frustrating everyone, because what they're showing us and what the footage reveals don't line up. Let's keep it real. The part about Mikey walking away is still one of the biggest sticking points. It's harsh, yeah, but the truth sometimes is. You can see it with your own eyes. The timing, the angle, the reaction, it's right there on screen. All right, now let's slow this whole thing down for a second. I've got the clip loaded up, and brace yourself because the sound is loud. The moment those shots ring out, it's chaos, but pay attention because this is the exact part that matters. So here's what happens. Blake moves first. You can see him stepping fast and almost a half run, but look closely and you'll notice Mikey is already further ahead. You can literally track it frame by frame.
Can't have been more than 15 or 20 seconds. And then I realized there hasn't been another shot, so the shooter has likely been detained or stopped or something, not in immediate danger. I pause, I look around me, and I see Mikey. And I see Mikey there. And truthfully, I will never forget what I saw, because I've seen Mikey almost every day for the past 2 years. I know his personality very well. He's a very bubbly guy. He's a very happy guy almost all of the time. And I'll never forget what I saw, because
when the camera pans left, there's Mikey up front. Then a split second later, Blake appears behind him, taking a different route. They weren't side by side like the story claims. They were on completely different paths. And that's why people are calling the version they told confusing. Because if you go back and watch it, there's no clear moment where they both react together like they said. Blake cuts across one way near the tent while Mikey is already moving the opposite direction. It's not synced up, not even close. Now, when you slow the footage down, the picture becomes even clearer. You see Mikey step out, calm, not panicked, not screaming, just walking out of frame. The energy doesn't match what they described later. That's why people keep saying something doesn't feel right. And listen, this isn't about attacking anyone. It's about transparency. When there's video proof of how things went down, and then people come forward telling a completely different story, of course the public's gonna notice. You can't overwrite visual evidence, especially when millions have already seen it. Honestly, the way it's playing out looks like they're scrambling to control the narrative. Every time someone posts a clip breaking it down, they double back with new clarifications, but those clarifications only make everything murkier. That's the thing. We don't need wild theories or assumptions here. The footage is the proof. You can slow it down yourself and see who was where, who did what, and when it all happened. And once you do, it's clear that the story being told doesn't match the actions we can see with our own eyes. So yeah, Blake went one way, Mikey was already ahead. That's not opinion, that's what the frame shows.
It was clear in the moment that he was profoundly freaked out. What I'll always remember is the way his lip was quivering, which I'd never seen before. And you very rarely see from someone that he was freaking out. And then I think he literally said to me, I might be imagining this, but I think what he literally said was, he was looking around, and then he says, I need to call Erika. And then he takes his phone and he begins calling Erika.
And if we're being real, that tiny difference changes everything about the timeline they've been selling. All of this just makes you wonder if they were confident in their version. Why does the story keep changing every time someone pulls up new footage? Something about that just doesn't sit right. So here's what we're seeing. Blake isn't standing beside him, not even close. He's way off to the side, somewhere else completely. So when they tell us those two were together reacting at the same time, it just doesn't hold up. You can see it with your own eyes. Mikey's alone, holding what looks like a phone to his ear. And then the story gets even more confusing because now Turning Point is saying Blake wasn't even on the phone. He was supposedly plugging his ears the entire time, like walking through a full-blown crisis, just covering his ears like nothing else was happening. That's the explanation. But let's be real, so that doesn't make any sense. Watch the footage closely. Mikey clearly has his phone up right as the shots go off, and then he walks away fast. My honest thought, he probably called his dad immediately, maybe even had him on the line already. I can't say that as fact, but that's what the sequence looks like. And no, I don't think he was screaming the way they keep saying. He might have been speaking loudly, because with thousands of people shouting and panicking all at once, who wouldn't? The sound was insane, the chaos was everywhere, but the idea that he was dramatically screaming into the phone doesn't fit what's on the tape.
And I don't want to disclose how that call unfolded, but he did that. Your mind extends all of this, but that is happening within a minute of all of this occurring. I remember he calls Erika. Around the same time, I pull out my phone and I call my mom just to say, Mom, there's been a shooting. You're going to see it on the news. I'm okay. Pray for me. I've got to go. And I remember that call.
Here's where it gets tricky. If they admit he was on the phone during that exact moment, it opens another can of questions. People start wondering, why were you on the phone with your dad right as everything was going down? And that's not an easy thing to explain. It just looks strange no matter how you slice it, so instead of addressing it head on, they keep rewriting little parts of the story. And the funniest part? In this new clip, Mikey says something like, oh, you have to remember there were a lot of people, a lot happening. Sure, but that doesn't erase what's visible. He saw the video. He knew what his dad said, and instead of immediately clearing things up, it sounds like they just brushed it off. You can almost imagine the conversation. Dad, did you really say that? And his dad goes, well, I thought it was true. And Mikey replies, thanks for clearing that up. I've been having nightmares. Then boom, silence for another month. No follow-up, no serious discussion. Just two people in the same organization pretending like everything's fine. That's the part that gets people shaking their heads. How can two people supposedly this close, both involved in the same circle, go a whole month without talking after something that serious? It doesn't make them look guilty. It just makes it look weird. Every single explanation adds another layer of confusion instead of clarity. And honestly, I've been trying to be fair about it, really trying. I always do my best to show both sides, to say, hey, maybe there's another way to look at this, but man, they make it hard. The way they act toward anyone who asks questions is wild. Instead of answering, they label you as heartless or hateful just for pointing out what's right in front of everyone's eyes.
And around the time I put that phone away, and then he immediately calls his dad. He calls Rob McCoy, and he says, Dad, someone shot Charlie. You need to call all of your pastor friends. Charlie was hit. We need everyone to pray right now. And that's what he told him. And I guess it's very disgusting for me as someone who witnessed this, who saw Mikey hugely distressed and then step up in the moment, because after that call was over,
I've got no bad intentions here. I'm just looking at what's there, the footage, the words, the timelines, but when those pieces keep clashing, you can't just pretend they don't. And it's exhausting to watch people twist themselves into knots to defend something that's clearly inconsistent. But hey, I guess this is the official version now. So thank you, Turning Point, for the truth. Thank you for setting the record straight in your own special way. I guess we're all just supposed to nod along and say, yep, we totally believe there's no secret connections, no hidden details, no weird coincidences, just good people doing good things. And to General Mikey, it's what a salute, sir.
I saw Mikey like get total mastery of himself, that he realized he had to step up in this situation. And he, from that point, he was like a general directing a battle where he was, you know, grabbing people and saying, okay, we need to get to the hospital and we need to do these things. And you guys need to wait here. I need to get in here to get information so that I can get it to Erika.
Okay.
We appreciate your leadership, your composure, and that incredible ability to walk off calmly with your phone in hand in the middle of absolute chaos. Truly remarkable. Everyone watching, go ahead and stand up, give your salute, and take in this moment of truth. Anyway, that's all I've got for now. I just wanted to break it down one last time because the contradictions were just too big to ignore. Every new statement only makes things more confusing, and honestly, at this point, I think everyone's starting to see it for what it really is. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment below telling me what you think about this whole situation. I'll catch you in the next one, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.